It's an honor for me to be here. I'm quite a newcomer to this community, and I feel quite an outsider. I know very little about machines, which is the topic of this session, but I remembered earlier today of a saying that the war was too important to leave it to generals. I feel that what's going on with language technology is a bit too important to leave it to software programmers, computationalists, etc. And I will need to go through a fairly long introduction in order to get to the heart of the matter here. I'll tell you about our company and our development, and that is what is going to take most of the time of my presentation in order to try to make very clear what I'm getting at in the middle. So we create lexicographic content. We've been around for over 20 years, and we are in a position where we need to reinvent ourselves because as a dictionary company, we don't think there is much use for dictionaries per se as final products anymore, or that need will go and get less and less. But nevertheless, the content that we have is extremely important, and I'm going to talk about how we are using that content in order to automatically recreate new content. So this is the kind of stuff we have. We are specialized in English learners' dictionaries. We are going to go through it. It's a main part of my talk. And we have many different language versions, which we then put together and got into multilingual dictionaries quite early on. And this is something that we are continuing to do today, working on many different languages. So these are the main things that we need to go through linguistically. Preparing the microstructure, the microstructure, all the editorial and translation guidelines, conversion tables, how do we choose headwords and the morphological lists, and endless revisions. It's never ready. It's always something which is kind of provisory. Dealing with all kinds of lexicographic teams, translations, etc., etc., and underlying all of that with a very robust technological infrastructure, which includes preparing, developing all of these tools ourselves for the editing, for the processing, for the publishing, etc. Our data is in pretty good XML format. We are moving into RDF. We carry various utilities that we develop for our QA, for statistics, providing technical support to the editors, and developing digital applications in that, etc. So as a matter of fact, having separated the two, I should say that we see more and more the two of them entwined together, as it's less and less easy to keep it as two different factors. And we have our editors who are quite familiar with the computational side and vice versa. So I'm going to dive further into the topic of this presentation now. We begin from having a monolingual English learners dictionary. That used to be a standard in the last century, and it was a kind of taboo to learn another language with the aid of your language until more or less we came along. Since the 1980s, there was a certain form of pedagogical dictionary for learning English as the international language of communication, paying attention to the native language of the user, and that is where we came and started developing what we call semi-bilingual learners dictionaries, and having several of them, putting them together, and all of a sudden we had a multilingual, an English multilingual dictionary. Then we could go and switch from take the translations of any language and turn that into a headword list, linking to what was originally the English headwords, and they become the translations. And once we have that, we can continue going and expanding and developing things in a multi-layer way. Visually, this is what I would suggest to look at. It's beginning on a monolingual, going through bilingual, into multilinguals, and then back again. Someone was saying yesterday about it was this morning, Paige Williams was saying that multilingual is the new monolingual. In a way, it makes sense. All of these things act and reverberate on each other, and then it's a network of networks, actually. And I'm talking only about the data in our servers, because before we have even started connecting it with other data, which is, of course, available out there. So basically, this is the vision, with the idea that any language could become a focal point, just like any of us as a speaker of any language is in the center of his or her universe, and going from there and communicating with any other language and vice versa, and enriching our communication on the base of that. So I would say this is an aim. We are not precisely there yet. Let me show you then what this looks like. This is the English Learner's Dictionary. Actually, it's an old version. It was updated, but never mind. It's our, what we call, test site. It's part of our research and development to understand what a dictionary should look like today. Oh, thank you. So basically, what you have here is a learner's dictionary for each sense of the word. There is a definition in easy English, example of usage, some other grammatical information, maybe I didn't choose the best example, and a brief translation in honor of our Latvian hosts. This is actually a dictionary published here in Latvia by a leading educational publisher. Now, as I mentioned, we have well over 40 languages there, and this is how it would look like, because all that we do is we go and we juxtapose all of those translations together. So we are starting to have this monster here with very precise translations according for each meaning of the headword. Okay? I'll try to rush through that then. Okay. Thanks again. I will just rush through it. Okay. So what we need to do in order, we are trying to see how can we use the data that we have and recreate things. How can we recycle and continue working with it? So basically, I'm going to go through the process of how this semi-automatic development of multilingual glossaries is being done. So first of all, we need to extract the list of translations. The programmers go through different rules of, for example, there would be translations with all kinds of commas and slashes and brackets, etc., etc. So there is some processing of that. Turning the translations into legitimate so-called dictionary headwords or lemmas. Adding part of speech. Editing the links back to the original English entries. Now, here maybe the difference is starting, because in a way Google Translate are also having all of those translations about between different languages going through the English. As far as I know, that is happening on a word-to-word level, whereas what we are doing is going on a word-to-sense level. Since we had a full English entry divided into the different meanings, and each meaning having its own translation equivalent, thank you, this is something that will make that possible for us. So this is part of the technical things that go behind it, different tables that we need to develop first of the English headwords, of the different senses, the translations, etc. Then there is this process. I'm going to concentrate on the middle process of the editing. That is the semi-automatic production. So basically, this is what the editor needs to do once they received this preliminary data from us. Our programmers have kind of switched the translations into headwords and the headwords into translations. And then the actual editorial work, a manual work is going on. We avoid any automatic process in that, simply in order to assure the final quality there. So these are the operations that the editor is going through, and I will show you what it looks like. This is a special editorial tool that we develop. We have to provide it to the editor in order to work with that. This is the process of preparing that on the base of French, the word cadre, and then the different entries in the English dictionaries where it has originally appeared as a translation equivalent. Now, part of the work of the editor will be to see which of that is appropriate, because we are doing a symmetrical work to begin with, more or less, and then we need to go into the finer details and work that out. So these are various things that the editors need to go through here, and then there is a transformation to HTML, and this is something which I would like to show you as a final sample. This is what happens. In this case, I chose German to English. So that is the certain German headword with the appropriate senses of entries in the English dictionary. Okay, so this is for a simple German to English index, which is useful for what we call production purposes of going from your native language into the target language. However, since each sense of the English dictionary actually has translations and many others, we can then go back to the automatic process and receive this. This is something which I actually did. I will need to see. I have an HTML file here. So what I have just showed you, it's this. Okay, again, it's an HTML. Oh, I need to, please stay with me. I will need it one more. So this is the HTML representation of the XML-based data, etc. And just to quickly show you, this is how it will work here then, okay? Going back to the English. In exactly the same way, once we have added all of the translations which are there as part of the English multilingual dictionary, now it works.
Yeah, great. Okay. It works very well. I think we should
I'm
open questions, answering. Yeah, one. Okay. We give you 1 minute.
Thank you.
Great.
So just to finish things off properly, yeah, you don't need that anymore. So thank you.